Hey guys. All right, I'm gonna start today's video real quick. I'm gonna try not to do that too much too. Anyway, I'm gonna try and start today's video with, first of all, look, I got my Fearless shirt on, super excited. And I'm in my upstairs that we have been slowly working on. Yeah, that's taking a really long time because we're doing a lot of it ourselves. So, and then I won't even get into the jokes about blind people painting. So, anyway, I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about. I hear, so a lot of the times when people are talking and I tell them what I do, they say things like, "Oh, well, how does that work for you?" Given that you don't drive and there are other things that you just don't do. And my answer is that primarily I started with things we had, things I had, because while I don't typically, I currently am hoarding some clothing, but while I don't typically hoard clothing, I do tend to hoard purses and jackets. And so that's kind of my downfall. And it's usually, I like really nice purses. So I have several that are more expensive ones, and I tend to not carry super inexpensive ones, or I have, one kind of a daily driver, as it were, that I don't mind if something happens to that, because So anyway, but I started with things basically in my house. And really, I started because I was looking to combine two households. And so when we started looking to combine our households, we started talking about what are we going to do? What are we going to get rid of? And we essentially laid out a lot of stuff that we had and said, okay, well, we have duplicates. Let's go through them and pick basically the better one, or the one that matches the color scheme, or the one that does whatever, right? There were a couple of exceptions, like both of us have a particular favorite vacuum cleaner, so we kept both of our vacuum cleaners. And there were a couple of things like that. We have not come to an agreement yet on, dishware, that kind of stuff. So we have a set of dishes that's kind of a placeholder until we find a set that we can agree on. But I found that I had a lot of jackets that were in fantastic condition that I just don't wear a lot, and not so many shoes. I had some shoes that, because I'm particular about my shoe wear, so I had some that just for whatever reason didn't work fantastic, until I found a brand type that I like, and now I tend to only get those particular ones when I see them. And of course, I try really hard to buy them from my eBay and Poshmark friends. So, anyway, so that's essentially where I really started when I started back up with all of this, was kind of finding things around the house and already getting through things that I had. So that was the first place. The second was that some of my relatives were kind of downsizing around the same time, and so they would mention, or friends' relatives would mention, hey, we're downsizing, we're getting rid of our music collection or our book collection or whatever. And the things that really struck me, the things that I have a hard time parting with, so books. I found myself saying, yeah, I'll look through your books and take your books. And then anything that I couldn't use, I would set aside to be able to try and resell. And whatever didn't resell, I would donate or give to friends and pass it along, right? So it just went from there, is where it started. And then as I was out, I would see things, little things, right? Like I would be at a yard sale or a garage sale, or, I don't too often convince. I'm going to move you around here. There, that might be better. I don't know. I'm going to try not to wiggle around too much. Anyway, I not too often can convince Mr. Hussey to drive me around to like yard sales. Like he's not spending a morning going yard sailing with me. That's not his bag. So I go yard sailing with a good friend of mine, or we do Goodwill, or we do thrift stores. And if you're in my area and you need a friend to tag along, please hit me up because I could use a friend. Anyway, so the few times I could get him to go, I would pick up small things that I would see that I knew I could sell pretty easily through eBay or Poshmark or through Facebook Marketplace, or even a lot of times in person. It was in person because I would see something that I knew someone else had mentioned, right? Like, for instance, I have a friend who really likes Victoria's Secret pink stuff. And so I happened to be at a yard sale one time, and this lady was getting rid of a ton of, size medium pink gear, as well as a couple of perfumes, etc. And I think I snagged them all for something like $10. And my friend, was happy to pay $20 for those things. Now it's not a big turnover, right? But I remembered that from one season to the next season, picked them up for her, held them for her until she got here. And then basically, she made the offer of that much. And I told her what I had paid for them. So it's not like I hid anything. So that's basically how I started. So like when you were thinking, I can't see myself doing this, but you want to, then that is a good way to get started. Look around your place. There are so many things, especially vintage things right now. Um, with my first boy, I used to have a huge tub of Legos, like one of the massive Walmart tubs that we kept out in our back closet so that he could pull them out and play with them, like on the back patio area. And it was the largest one they sold at the time, and it was full to the brim with an extra set on top, one small tub on top. I ended up giving those actually to just a neighbor kid when I downsized and changed apartments. Um, and moved in with my husband. So when I did that, I wish I had known or thought at that time, I wish I had thought to myself, hey, I could probably sell these because, there were many hundreds of them. And I never thought about it. They were just gifts that he'd been given over several years, that had basically been collecting dust because he was never a Lego person. But there are tons of things like that, right? Teacups right now, and saucers seem to do really well, especially with the steampunk community. The Legos always seem to do pretty well, depending on which kinds you have and whether they're in boxes and whether you've got complete sets, etc. So many things like that go well. Candlesticks, crystal and brass, right? Like things that you can pick up at a lot of yard sales super, super inexpensively. When you see people getting rid of their china sets, you'd be surprised. You can partition those out. And if you're willing, right, to take it on and be willing to ship those, you can parse those out and ship them by twos or by fours and do a little bit better in terms of making some of your money back, making all your money back in some profit. So it just depends what you're looking for. The other thing is that I started with things I knew, right? So I knew what my purses were worth, and I knew what my coats were worth, and I knew the brands, and I knew their history. And so it was easy for me to say that, I've got this coach and I'm going to ask $40 for it because it's in this condition, and, here it is. And so I went with things like that. So, when you're first starting, stick with the stuff that you know, and start small, right? Start small. Like I think I said in one of the other videos, I first started, it was like 20 things as I was just going through stuff before I got married. So, you can do that too. And it works really well. So anyway, I'm going to go, touching my face again, man. I'm going to go do a little bit more stuff downstairs and some clean outs. I've got to take some more pictures and list some stuff, and I've got to get on List Perfectly and do some cross listing. So anyway, talk to you guys soon. Thanks. Bye. Love you, sister.